Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stuart. My guest today is Judy Weber. And Judy, I want to thank you for being a guest. Thank you for coming.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about leadership for women. It's going to be so.
I know. And I could talk about leadership all day long. So, Judy, just to give people an idea, you are a sales expert, you are a strategist, and an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
you're also a leader yourself. So I just am thrilled because I know there's so many avenues that we can discuss today that will be appealing to anyone in leadership that is listening to us. So tell me, what is your biggest passion in this area? How does this show up for you? And what
Mm.
would you like to share with people?
Well, I want to start just like making sure everybody that's listening or watching knows that I my resume may seem very impressive. Lawyer, in-house counsel, serial entrepreneur since 2003. I've done lots of things, but what you need to know is I come from poor stock and I'm darn proud of it, right? Dad was a factory
Good.
worker, stayed home. And so people like me weren't supposed to do what I've done. And it's
Mhm.
only by Jesus Christ, my Lord, and my ambition that he built me with, that allowed me to do all of these things. But my mom, just briefly, came also from poor stock, but she was raped at 10 years old. And
Mhm.
so whole life was, she was like, lived the less than life.
Yes.
Yeah, like kind of the underlife. And so she raised me, though, to be a strong woman. She said, Jude, there's leaders and followers. Make sure you're a leader. And
Mhm.
so that background and being raised by a very smart woman who didn't fully know how smart and awesome she was, I'm on mission to like raise up women and show them how awesome they are. Because a lot of times we don't see it in ourselves.
Well, Judy, I'm so glad that you brought that up early because I will tell you, and anyone who's listened to previous episodes of The Inner Estate, oftentimes we don't get into that element of their story until later in the call. And usually I'll say something like, all right, like anyone listening right now, they might be thinking, well, she has a perfect life, or he has a perfect life. And no one does. We
Mm,
don't.
that's right.
We don't. So I'm glad that you shared that right out of the chute. So anyone listening right now, it doesn't matter where you start from. Is that what I hear you saying?
Absolutely. Just start.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my mantra is pursue the impossible,
Hmm.
because for me as a Christian in Christ, nothing's impossible. If he put this dream in your heart, don't let anything stop you. Like I remember my
Hmm.
parents said, Judy, I know you went to go to college. You want to go to college, but I don't know how it's going to make it work. And I'll tell you, Bridget, I never let that worry me. I was like, don't worry about it, Mom and Dad. I'm not worried about the money. I know I'm going. Don't worry about it. So I just never let circumstances and the shoulds or shouldn'ts dictate what I do and the actions I take.
So it's really remarkable. Where did you grow up?
In a
What
very, very,
state?
yeah, Pennsylvania, outside of
Hmm.
Philadelphia, a very small city named Boyertown.
Okay.
It's one of those little streets that if you drive through it and blink, you miss it.
Right. Yes. I grew up in a very similar area in Maryland. So I
Mhm.
understand exactly what you're describing. When you did go to college, how did you make that happen?
I just got great grades and applied. And
Hmm.
here's the fun thing. At the time, I didn't know the difference between Penn State and University of Pennsylvania. To me,
Hmm.
college. And
Right.
so school for music ed. And I applied to one school. It was the school that my piano teacher went to. And so I'm like, okay. She goes, do you want to go to my school? They're having an open house or something. I said, sure. That's the one place I applied. It's the one place I got in. And then it was $8,000 a year or something for college. So
Right.
it wasn't the craziness that it is, these days.
Although 8,000, I mean, at the time, because of course, inflation, economies, and the power of a dollar, it was still significant.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't though. It wasn't a
did you,
hundred a year though.
I agree. I agree. That's a whole other podcast episode we could do. Did you pay yourself? Did you work your way through? Did you get some grants and scholarships, or how did you make your undergraduate happen?
Yeah, great question. I had $10,000 of student loan debt when I came out. My
Hmm.
parents threw a little bit, and the rest was
Hmm.
scholarship by God's
Yeah,
grace.
that's great. But you did it.
I did it.
And then did you go into music education right after that, or did you go to law school right away?
Well, when I was a little girl, there are two things I wanted to be, a teacher and a lawyer. But I didn't
Hmm.
think as a little girl that people like me, I was sure I could go to college, but I didn't think people like me could be lawyers for whatever reason.
Gotcha.
So I graduated third in my class overall, not just in music, and I couldn't get a job in music in the greater Philadelphia area. And so I was a secretary. Before that, I was in sales. I was in sales for 4 years before I went to law school. And so there was that time to mature and realize, oh, real quick story. My last sales job before deciding to go to law school, I worked for Dictaphone. And Dictaphone
Okay.
is that
Yeah.
little thing that lawyers speak into. And it was a Friday night, and I was doing a sales spiel with a lawyer. And I walked out of there. I looked up to heaven and I said, Lord God, and sounds rude, but I said, Lord God, if that idiot can pass the bar, I know I can. Help me, Lord. I'm going. And so, yeah, that's how that happened.
That's amazing. So then did you go to law school full time or did you go to law school at night while you were working full time?
Yeah, I went to Villanova full time. I went all in. I
Nice.
had like $25,000 coming out, which is funny. That might be 1 year now, but
Mhm.
I paid it off. And you know what? I don't even know how I paid it off. It was rolled into the equity of the house or whatever, but it just never was an
You
issue.
just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then so it's funny because I've had other attorneys, other lawyers on the podcast, and I'm always curious when you then got out of law school, what route did you go down? Did you join a firm? Did you find a job as an attorney? Did you start your own firm right out of the gate? What did you do right after law school?
Yeah. So let's get timing right. So I graduated in 1995. My
Okay.
first business was 2003. In 1995, had no idea how to start a business. The thought of it would have scared the bejeebies out of me. So I did very well in law school. So I was on law review. So I got some great offers and I ended up working for a big law firm down
Hmm.
in Wilmington, Delaware, right outside of Philadelphia. And it was great. And I chose the litigation track instead of transactional. If I had to do it again, I think I would have gone down transactional. It's a little bit more mom friendly, shall we say.
Okay. Okay. And so at the same time, you were having children and building your family?
Yeah, yeah. It's a funny thing. I was blacklisted as a first year lawyer because I started in August, found out I was pregnant in January, and
Hmm.
I was blacklisted. Like there were times you have to do billables, and I'm like, the partners weren't giving me work because the guys
Uh,
were just like, guys were in Wilmington, they were very hoity toity. They were very buttoned up, shall I say. And so they
mhm.
avoided a lot of women anyway, unless they were partner. And the women, this is so weird. I thought, yeah, women partners are going to embrace women associates. Oh, no. And
No.
especially, how dare I get pregnant? Because none of the ladies that were partners at the time, and it's not that long ago, but none of them had children until they made partner. So they looked at me as a rebel and,
Right.
nobody wanted to touch me. So,
Well, here's the good news. At the Interstate, I love rebels. So, and I've been called a rebel myself, or a maverick, or rogue,
oh,
or fill in the blank
yeah.
with any type of synonym for that. So, so you're out there and you made it happen. How did you overcome that being blacklisted? That had to be an obstacle, a speed bump in the moment that was pretty annoying. How did you overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple of partners that did end up like taking me under their wing, so to speak, but I stayed at my first firm for 2 years and then we moved from Delaware to Pennsylvania. My husband and I, the father of my kids, he's deceased now, but we moved and I got into a Philly firm, and so there I started fresh. So not
Right.
everybody in the firm had this negative view of me.
How dare you? How dare you have a child? Yes. Yeah, it
Hey,
is funny because it.
I'm sorry. How dare I have a child? And I ended up having 3 boys. Praise God. How dare I actually want to spend time with them? How dare I?
Unheard of. Yeah. It is, I hope, that attitude in your chosen industry has changed. I hope that has changed in the last 30 years.
A little bit. I think
A
the
little
nature
bit.
of the beast is it is what it is. Like when I was on
Mhm,
trial, first of all, it was like an hour to get down from where I lived into Philly. So there was all kinds of childcare issues. And when you're on
mhm.
trial, like everything is the trial because when you're
Right.
in court, you're prepping for the next day, you're prepping witnesses and everything. So that's why that's really not conducive to mothering. It's really not. But
Well, I'm curious. So how did you end up launching your first business in 2003? So was that part of that decision making? Tell us more. What was your first business you launched?
Yes.
And why did you do it?
Yeah, I love this. Okay, so I had my third child in 2001.
Mhm.
When I was pregnant with that baby, I was excited to tell my parents that I was pregnant again. And they had been watching my boys while I was at work and my husband was at work. And my mom, who I didn't realize, but now that I'm 60, I get it. My mom said, Judy, we can't handle three. And I laughed. I thought she was kidding. And I go,
Right.
"Ha, that's so fun, Mom." And she looked at me all dead serious. She goes, Jude, I can't. And so I made more than my husband at the time, long story short. So he stayed home for a while, 6 months, until I realized not that he was a bad dad, but he was kind of half working when he was supposed to be watching my boys, and or
Mhm.
really one because the others were in school. So anyway, I decided I'm leaving. And about 2 or 3 months thereafter, I started my own business as an interior decorator because I love design
Nice.
and I had zero formal training. I was HGTV trained, right? Self trained. And the funny story is, I decided I was going to launch my business with getting a booth at a local home show. I was very
Okay.
strategic. They teach you to think strategically to win at every turn. So I was thinking strategically. I'm at this booth. How do I optimize it? How do I bring people to my booth? How do I schedule appointments, incentivize them?
Right.
Appointments. I left that weekend with 14 appointments and ultimately
Nice.
signed 10 of those 14.
That's
So,
fantastic. That's
yes,
fantastic.
that was the beginning of like, oh, this is great. But then I had a champagne problem of how am I going to service all these people?
Right. And did you?
I actually had to refer some out ultimately because of time frames and things. And the big killer of that business for me, so power to all the interior designers and decorators out there, was the contractors who I'm very
Oh,
regimented.
yeah.
You say Tuesday you're coming to paint somebody's house or to come to install the kitchen countertops. I'm trusting you're going to be there, and
Right.
pay for the worst. They're just willy nilly, I'd call it. I say, "Where are you?" "We're at the La 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 home," and they're like, "Oh, well, the weather's great today." I'm thinking, what does that have to do with the cost of tea in China? And he goes, "Well, it's a great day, so I had to take care of my exterior clients because the big rains are coming up." And I'm like,
Uh,
whew.
yeah.
So I did that for a time. And then ultimately I did some legal marketing work and then transitioned into getting my realtor's license.
Mhm.
And there's lots of bobs and weaves. So ultimately, then my husband and I were going through a divorce. So I returned to the law. But most recently, right before I started this coaching business to formally coach what I'd been doing informally for years, I was in-house counsel, and that was super fun. I loved everybody there except the owner. He was toxic. He was a male chauvinist pig to the max. And yeah, but it's been quite a ride. But in every turn, I can see how the Lord's hand was in it because I gathered some important knowledge, wisdom, and confidence to ultimately do what I do today.
When I hear a professional like yourself that had the courage, so when you launched the interior decorating, I want to make sure that we're clear on this. You stopped practicing law and you jumped full time into the interior design. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I wouldn't say full time because to me, I'm always like that son, my third son. I always called him my little design assistant, and I still call
Mhm.
him that, even though he's 6 feet 2 or 3. But yes, I was a full time mom, and I did that. But that I wouldn't say it was full time, but yes, it
But you
was.
stepped away from being a practicing attorney
Yes, yes, ma'am. I said goodbye. Yes.
and then you made the change from design into real estate and then went back into law. Judy, I know there are people listening to us talk right now and they are in a career that is not satisfying their spirit, their family, or their overall goals for how they want to live and how they want to feel every day. And some of them might be in what on paper is an amazing career that they spent a lot of education, money, and time acquiring. And they don't have the courage to step away. Law is a big one. I'm sure you know that. And it's funny, a quick side note, how many attorneys become very successful real estate agents. That is a crossover that I think
Well,
happens way more often than people realize. How did you have that courage in the moment? You got into that law school after feeling like you couldn't be an attorney or people like you weren't an attorney and you made it happen. And then you went into litigation, which is so demanding and so brings out, you've got to be very skilled to be that. a litigating attorney. You
Mhm.
overcame obstacles. You at least cracked some ceilings that were in existence, right? In the firm that you were in. How did you have the confidence to take a dramatically bold step and say, regardless of money spent, time, success, I'm stepping away from that and I'm doing this?
So good. I want to say a couple of things, and then I'll directly answer your question.
Mhm.
Years after I stepped away from the practice of law, my brother said to me, who never went to college, but he did very well for himself, he said, I bet you feel stupid or something like that. How do you feel spending all that money and now you don't practice?
Mhm.
And at the time, I was so angry. But now, all those years later, decades later, I say, you can take Judy out of the courtroom, but you can't take that courtroom out of me. So, like,
That's right.
you know what I mean? I use those skills, which law school really is teaching you how to think strategically more than anything else.
Correct.
And so I don't besmirch that. And that was money very well spent. And I know that if you are an attorney, one of the smoothest transition to entrepreneurship, and not just to
Correct.
put weight somewhere else, just any business, because of your knowledge, and whether you're transactional or a litigator, you've got the goods. So trust me on that. But, and the next thing I wanted to say is it's so fun because I would often have people say when they meet me, you're too nice to be an attorney. And then I would say, well, wait till you see me in the courtroom, because what you
Right.
see now, I turn
Right.
into that lion in the courtroom.
Mhm.
But how did I have the confidence? I don't know. I had always a very supportive family, like mom and dad. My husband at the time, he was concerned, but I said, look, I am committed and I'm a hard worker. I've got work ethic, you know? And so I will do everything I can to make this work. But I said to him, understand, my priority is raising our kids to be godly children of.
Right.
So
Right.
I will never sacrifice them. That's why as soon as I had kids, I knew I wasn't going to make partner, because I wasn't willing to come in at 8 and stay until 8 or 9.
Right.
But it's just a decision. It's a decision saying, you know what? There is no plan B. I am going all in on this and making it work.
I think that's fantastic. And you also had that knowledge of, which you did do, at some point in the future, you may go back to it. And then I'm assuming here, but because you left it once and it worked out well, you were able to go back to it and then leave it again. I call that having a life by design. Like, I feel as
Mhm.
if you have been so confident in your own self. Like you said, that you work hard, that you'll make things happen, you'll prioritize your family before business, and you'll figure it out. And you made those decisions and created the life you wanted to live in the season you were in. Is
Mm.
that an accurate statement?
Absolutely, and that's what I was gonna say, because there's seasons. I wasn't
Mhm.
willing to sacrifice my children and have strangers raise them, and believe me, if you're in that situation, I am not sitting in judgment. What I am saying is, for me, I just decided that I wanted to shape them. I needed to be there for them, and I'm so glad and thankful that I was able to. But it really is understanding, for me, a conversation with the Lord, what do you have for me? Because just because that worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. But I
Right.
will say this. I don't want anybody to hear that my confidence, and I've never failed. I failed plenty of times. I have
Okay,
failed.
good. Because that was one of my next questions.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that all the experience from the businesses that I had before, when I had my first year as a business coach for women, was thousand shy of 200 grand. But that's because of the experience that I had as a lawyer, experience that I
Mhm.
had in the C-suite, experience that I had as a serial entrepreneur. But there have been plenty of days where I'm crying. And
Yes.
even now, where my husband is looking at me like, Judy, what's the matter? So sometimes it's our own selves getting in the way, and other times bad stuff happens circumstantially, personally,
Correct.
professionally. So I don't want everybody to think that, oh, everything Judy touches is gold. It's not, but it's how we react to those tough
That's
times
right.
to build our capacity and our faith and our stamina, and, to really keep going and do it in a way that doesn't burn you out. Because I know that's a big problem for women.
Huge problem. It's
Mhm.
a it's a huge problem. When did you make this last big shift where you became this coach for leadership, entrepreneurial women? When did that happen, and where are you taking that?
Yeah. My first business as a coach was with my twin sister,
Mhm.
and she was a $1 million team leader at the time, real estate, and
Mhm.
I was coming out of corporate. And we decided that we were going to work with realtors. We were going to work with women realtors. And I loved my sister. And if anybody would have told me, you guys will never make it, I would have said, you're crazy. We've been together since the womb, for heaven's sakes. We're twins.
Right. Right.
And I love her to this day, but we did not see business the same. We did not do business the same. So that was 2017. In the summer of 2019 is when we split. And I spent that summer on the couch with tissues and the Bible and screaming out to the Lord, what do you have for me? Am I going to compete directly with my sister? Like, what's going to be my niche? All that. So ultimately, I landed on, a business coach for
Mhm.
Christian service-based businesses, realtors, interior decorators, some lawyers, doctors who want to transition from doing clinical stuff to coaching, like the whole gamut of
Mhm.
service-based businesses. And I love it. And so I would say more recently, I decided that sales expertise is what I really shine in, because pretty much since graduating college, I've been in sales jobs.
Selling. Correct. Correct.
Yes, yes. And so, but it's important. It's not selling as the world sees it. I call it holy sales,
Mhm.
because selling is service. I mean, that's another thing. Women get so hung up on selling. They think it feels pushy and slimy and smarmy. And we picture that car salesman who is only out for himself. But
Right.
when we understand that sales, I mean, Jesus Christ was the greatest salesman that ever lived, and he was a servant leader. And
Yes.
when you sell, you are serving, you're inviting somebody to have a new life or to have something better
Correct.
than you have right now. So, it took a little bit for me to understand where my real zone of genius is, but it's absolutely sales.
And you're right. I mean, frankly, some of the key parts of why we enjoy life and how we live our life is a direct result of incredible salespeople, usually, that were able to communicate with us in a way where we felt valued, heard, and understood. And they were able to guide us in whichever manner through where we needed to go to achieve our goals and dreams. That is a great salesperson. So it is not, it's someone who's an amazing listener, a great communicator. And you mentioned strategy. Typically, I think most great salespeople are also really good strategists, because they will hear the words and the needs and desires and dreams of someone, and they'll figure out, how do I make that real for them?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's really an honor.
Love my work. I absolutely love my
Hmm.
work. And to see my clients' eyes light up when they realize sales isn't about scripts. Sales
Right.
is about listening and
Listening. That's right.
what they want and kind of framing what you have, if it's a fit, not if it's not.
Hmm.
It's a fit, framing what you can do for these people in a way that they will understand it. And then the other thing is that when I say sales, sales is everything in business. Sales is messaging.
Correct.
Sales is marketing. Sales is delivery at the end, right? So I came up with what I call sales anchored messaging. And these are the anchors that you need so that there doesn't have to be this long, months long, maybe even years long nurture. I can't stand when I hear the gurus out there talk about, well, yeah, they have to see you 15,000 times and spend all these, gajillion hours with you before they want to work with you. Well,
Right.
that's, I guess, if you don't know what you're saying, and you really shouldn't be putting it
Correct.
out there. But yeah, so sales, a sales centric business is a very successful business.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see salespeople or business owners or entrepreneurs or even leaders? What do you see them making as some common mistakes?
Okay, you're going to love mistake number one. Okay.
Okay.
I see that too many, and I work with women, so I always say women, too many women are worried about creating content instead
Oh,
of
yeah.
creating a body of work. And here's what I mean. Believe me, you're not a content creator. You're an expert. You're an authority. So I want you to look at social as your storefront. And so there's got to be intentionality behind it. And believe me, it's not about consistency. Post every day, 3 times a day. Make sure you get the hour right and do 10 stories, No, it's not about consistency. It's about potency. I would rather have 2 posts a week, each one showcasing your depth, right? And your authority, your expertise, rather than posting every day sounding like a parrot of everybody else, right? So I
Right.
teach my kids how to create a body of work so that when someone finds you, they come to your feed and it's a better than Netflix experience. They're drawn to you. They consume this post and then they want to watch that one. And before long, they're like, she's the one. She's the one. I'm going to
Right.
someone like that, so that's huge. You are not a content creator. You're an
You're an
expert.
expert in your chosen area.
You're
So,
creating a body of work. You're creating a body of work, not just content that's here today and gone tomorrow.
right, right. What other mistakes do you see? Which I believe me, what you just described shows up in real estate frequently.
Mm.
But yeah, so I do know what you're talking about. What other mistakes do you see?
Yeah. The second biggest mistake is the general umbrella of communication. And what I see, and I work with women at all stages of business, but those that have a team, so, real estate team leaders, you listen up, right? If you have a team, often you think, well, nobody's going to do it as good as me, or, I don't have time to train them. But hang on a
That's
second.
right.
Like you can't expect your team members to be awesome until they're trained by you. So, the first time you kind of do it, I recommend you do videos of it, create
Yes,
a place where they can go and make sure that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You already have done it, you know?
that's right.
So that's important. And then the other thing is they avoid hard conversations. And in real
Mhm.
estate, especially whether it's with a client or a team member or maybe even your broker or the underwriter, the lender, whatever the case may be. And so I have 3 things to fix this if you're afraid of having conversations, right? First of all, a conversation is only as hard as you think it is. So why don't
Mhm.
we just assume it's just a conversation? And then you might say, well, how do I do that, Jude? Okay. Second, be matter of fact. Take emotion out of it. Sometimes we're so, women especially, we're so big hearted. It's like we feel for people and we are afraid to tell them bad news. Wait a minute.
Right.
Be the business person. This is, you're doing your best. Sometimes it's somebody else's problem, but you've got to deliver the news. So just be
Mhm.
very matter of fact and take emotion out of it. And then the third thing is be kind but firm. Just be direct. Don't dance around it and hem and haw about it. And if you really just practice this and say, you know what, I'm going to go into this tough conversation as the professional. I'm not going to judge myself and beat myself up as the messenger. That'll allow you to really build those communication skills, which are so important in real estate and every business that you might have.
I agree. Yeah, any industry. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really critical. If you are going to be that strong leader and successful entrepreneur, you're probably not going to be alone. And communication is so key, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. I will say, because look, the best realtor isn't going to win. It's the best communicator that's going to win.
That's going to win. That's right.
There's sales wrapped up in that, but that's the bottom line. And then the third mistake is, and I think this is new for real estate, but I'm really excited to kind of lead the way on this, creating valuable IP. It starts with even a powerful lead magnet. And I
Yes.
know, you see these, the seller guide and the buyer guide. Ho hum
Right.
boy. I don't care, you know, if you're luxury buyer's guide or seller's guide, okay, do something different. And this is what I
Right.
love to brainstorm with my clients about, because we want to really zone in on one hyper specific problem and highlight it. Like if you want to go for the luxury, does your brand look luxury? Does your
Right.
it stand out as really different? And then the last thing I'll say on that is I don't teach funnels. I teach what I call an anti-funnel model. But I teach a legacy ecosystem that starts with a lead magnet, but also, there's all kinds of pieces to it that I can't really get into now because of time. Hear me. Real estate, the ones that survive in 26 and beyond, you cannot keep relying on referrals and doing things the old school way. You're going to be
Agreed.
you're just going to be out of business.
I do think the great sort has begun in my chosen industry. It is going to occur at we know it's already happening just looking at renewal of licensing
Mm,
fees and renewal of association memberships and what's happening with people moving around to different companies. Definitely there are things happening in this. But I think that's safe to say for most of the major industries in our country right now. This is a time of growth and change. So it's not that it's isolated to any one industry. And if you want to stand out, even I would go so far, and I'd love your opinion, even if you are in the corporate world, I would also be looking at my I just relying on the old tried and true, the buyer
mm,
guide and the seller guide? Or am I truly doing things and creating IP where I can stand out from the crowd?
yeah,
Because
yeah, I'm sorry. That intellectual property is so important, especially and if anybody's listening and you're like, well, I'm not ready to be a listing agent. Yes, you are from the gate.
yes, you
Okay.
are.
You are. Okay. But to Bridget's point, we have got to be innovative. And so we can no longer think that our hustle, even if you want to or do knock on doors and ring the bell, call 1,000 people today or whatever. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if that's your chosen model,
Right.
even that is going to get tougher for 1,000
Yes.
reasons. But I love
Yes.
that. I always think of it like this is the kind of market where those that really do the work that we're talking about, they're going to rise to the cream of the crop
Correct.
and rise to the top. And the others are just going to sink to the bottom and they're going to like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, what happened? We have to be creative. Entrepreneurs these days have to be creative and we have to speak with precision and stand in our authority position. We have to believe first, before anybody else does, that we are the best, that we can service our people the best. If we don't really believe that, how are we going to be able to, let anybody else feel the same thing? If we don't have that belief, they won't either.
They won't either. Right. And no one wakes up in the morning and says, oh, good, another day. Let me go be mediocre. Another day to strive towards average. I mean, like, if that, you're right. This is and I'm not exactly sure why I feel it's always been important. I feel like it's more important than it has been in quite a while. And I don't know if this is some post pandemic blossoming that's occurring, or maybe there was pent up where things didn't change for several years and like now change is coming. But I
Mhm.
really do agree with you. I feel like right now it is more critical than it's ever been that you have a unique voice, that your personality and what it would be like to work with you must be conveyed. It is not just your track record. There has to be something, a human element about you that will be appealing at least to a certain group of people. We
That's
all
right.
know that we're not going to be appealing to everyone all the time.
That's right. And we
But
weren't
yeah,
meant to serve everybody either. That's the good thing, Bridget. We weren't meant to serve everybody, but we were
right.
meant to serve a group of people that are looking for you directly. And, so just what you said, we're not going to be building our business by default. We have
Correct.
got to be strategic. We've got to be intentional. And that's why I'm excited about a 5-day intensive that the first one's coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to keep doing these throughout the year. Because it's so important. So I don't know if we're able to seg into that or
We can, yeah. Tell me more about that. So you're doing like a 5-day intensive. Tell us more. What is that?
yes, ma'am. It is a live 5-day virtual intensive. I'm calling it Scale because we want to scale
Okay.
our business. And it's all about the organic sales engine that fuels millions. And so inside this event, you're going to learn how to attract decisive, high caliber clients. Okay. Not those tire kickers. And you're going to be able to do that
Right.
every day. And the beautiful thing is, I'm not talking about ads. I'm talking about 3 scalable organic moves, and they take less than 90 minutes a day. So you're going to love that. So you're going to learn how to design your offer flow to match premium buyer behavior. Okay. When I talk
Okay.
about offer flow, a lot of times realtors zone out and they go, I only have one offer. I don't even know if I just sell whatever's there. Well, come to the event. You'll understand what I mean. And then the third thing, you're going to design a strategically engineered, no bro, anti-funnel, okay, that converts quietly behind the scenes because you shouldn't
Nice.
have to hustle in order to, make impact with your clients. So if you go to
Mhm.
judyweber.co/scale, judyweber.co/scale, you'll be able to grab your ticket there. It's complimentary because you're here listening to me on the show.
Nice. And then this is something that it's going to be happening in a few weeks, but you're also going to have it repeat in the future.
Absolutely. At
So
least once a quarter and probably more often than that.
that sounds phenomenal. It really does. So your passion comes through for all of this. Where do you see your coaching company going? Where do you see this? What is it headed towards?
Yeah. Oh, I had a goal by 2030 to help 100 women get to their first million and
Nice.
1,000 get to their first 100K.
Okay.
And that is very aggressive, but I'm hanging on to that because it is possible. And so if anybody's hearing me from the sound of my voice, again, understand where I came from. I'm not BSing and where I'm going. And
Right.
it's only because I've decided, and this is so huge, we'll end here if you want, but you've got to decide what you really want. And once you've decided, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to do the work to get you there? I'm never willing to compromise my faith in Christ, but I am willing to put in the hard work, to set up these assets and let them work for me. So then I could go 2 miles from where I live right now and put my feet on the beach. And so I
Nice. Nice.
go away and visit my kids who are all over the country. So yeah, pursue the impossible because it is possible.
I think that's fantastic. Which beach, which coast are you on? Are you still on the East Coast?
No, I'm on
Yeah.
the left coast of Florida. I'm in Florida, the
Okay, there
pan
you go.
yeah,
Yes. Oh my gosh. They have some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, in my opinion. And I've been
truly.
around. Yeah, that is the sand there is beyond compare.
Mm. Well, when
So
you're ever
I'm glad that you're able to get down there and get your feet in that sand.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I'm in
think
my
that's
dream home.
fantastic.
Yeah, by God's grace, I'm in my dream home. I wanted to be here by 2025. He got me here by
Mhm.
2023. I am less than 2-mile drive to the beach, and, right now it is what is this date? February 12th or something, and it is 22 where my sons are. It is almost 70 here, so yay, Florida
Nice.
in February.
Excellent. Yeah. Florida. Thumbs up for Florida. I'm in Arizona, so we're also having beautiful weather. I'm not in the mountains. I'm in Paradise Valley, so it is beautiful here as well. So,
Mm.
Judy, I want to thank you so much for joining us and for sharing not just what you have accomplished in your career, but also sharing that you're a woman of faith and how that's played a role in what you've been able to accomplish, both in
Mm.
your success and when you faced failure and obstacle. And, just building this family and your life by design is fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to this episode of The Interstate, I hope you'll come back and join us again for another episode. Judy, you have any final thoughts you would like to share?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that if anyone wants to reach out, Judy Weber Co. You can reach out. I'm on all of the social channels. Well, not TikTok,
Hmm.
but the main ones. And really,
Right.
truly, it is as simple as deciding to pursue the impossible. And when you really get out of your own way and believe that anything's possible for you, watch what happens.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you, Bridget.